My childhood best friend, Riley, always told everyone I was her closest bro. She even made me her personal advisor for her love life. But every single one of her relationships ended before it even really began, and afterward, she would drag me out to a bar to get hammered. After her umpteenth failure, she leaned in, completely wasted, and bit my ear. Caleb, why don't you just marry me and get it over with? I figured she was just drunk rambling again, so I casually humored her. Sure, if you hit 30 and you're still single, I'll take one for the team and marry you as my backup plan. She cried. After that, she started pulling away from me. Then, a post popped up on her Instagram feed showing off her new boyfriend. I clicked on the photo, and the guy's side profile looked at least 70% like me. Our group chat exploded. Caleb, is Riley pulling some kind of doppelganger stunt? I stared at the screen, my heart skipping a beat. My phone suddenly buzzed. It was a direct message from Riley. Caleb, I'm serious this time. Congrats. I typed, my fingers trembling slightly. Congrats my ass, she replied instantly. Look closer at who's actually in that photo. I stared at the phone screen, the bite of instant ramen I'd just taken lodged in my throat, refusing to go down. The group chat, aptly named the Warzone Squad, was blowing up faster than fireworks on the 4th of July. Holy shit. Check Riley's IG. A photo carousel. There's a guy. Caleb, get in here. Your best friend is officially off the market. My fingers felt stiff as I tapped on her familiar cat profile picture. Her Instagram grid loaded. 9 photos, shot with an indie, artsy vibe. A corner of a coffee shop, half-yellowed autumn leaves outside the window, the light slanting in. Riley was smiling, so hard her eyes were practically squeezed shut, her head resting on a guy's shoulder. The guy didn't show his full face, just a silhouette of his profile as he looked down at his phone. High bridge of the nose, sharp jawline, some loose hair falling over the corner of his eye. The chat was still going crazy. This dude's side profile is legit. Wait a minute. That jawline. Fuck. It looks like Caleb. Looks like him. Bro, is literally a carbon copy. What kind of stunt is Riley pulling? Making her rom-com fantasies a reality. Ramen broth splashed onto my hand, the heat making me flinch. I grabbed a napkin to wipe it, but the more I rubbed, the stickier it got. Right where my heart was, it suddenly felt like a cold draft had blown straight through. My phone vibrated with a custom notification sound. It was the one I had set just for her. Riley. Caleb, I'm serious this time. I stared at that line of text for a solid minute. My thumb hovered over the screen, unable to drop down and type. My mind was a carousel of flashing memories. The way she'd grab my arm and declare we were best friends for life. The way she'd sob on the sticky table of a late-night diner after a breakup. The way she'd slurred in my ear, asking me to just marry her. And all those memories froze on that one photo she'd just posted, leaning against someone else's shoulder, smiling. I took a deep breath and typed, Congrats. Send. Almost instantaneously, another message popped up. Congrats my ass. Look closer. Look at who it is. I froze. I went back to the Instagram post and zoomed in. I swiped around, staring hard at the guy's side profile. The eyebrows, the eyes, the nose, the mouth. Wasn't that the side profile from the passport photo I took last month? She photoshopped my face onto someone else's body. My phone started ringing. I answered it, but didn't say a word. Silence on the other end, too. I could just hear her faint breathing and the muffled sound of traffic in the background. About 10 seconds passed before Riley couldn't hold it in anymore. Caleb, did you go mute? Where are you? My own voice sounded bone dry. Downstairs at your apartment building, she paused. I'm freezing to death. Hurry up and come down. I slammed my ramen bowl onto the table, grabbed my jacket, and bolted for the door. The elevator felt agonizingly slow. I counted the numbers, floor by floor, while this indescribable, bubbling anger simmered in my chest like the boiling broth I'd left behind. I pushed open the lobby doors, and the biting winter wind smacked me right in the face. She was standing under a streetlight, bundled up in a white puffer jacket, her scarf pulled all the way up to her chin, her nose bright red from the cold. She was clutching her phone, the screen still lit, casting a pale glow over her face. When she saw me, she blinked, but she didn't smile. I walked over and stopped right in front of her. Explain. I gritted out between my teeth. Explain what? She looked up at me, her eyes flickering away before dropping to stare at the toes of her boots. Didn't you see my Instagram? I got a boyfriend. Boyfriend my ass. My temper flared. You photoshopped my picture, Riley. What are you, 5? Are we playing pretend? I didn't photoshop it. She snapped her head up, her eyes suddenly rimmed with red. I used an AI face swap app. It cost me $3. I choked on my words. Aifa swap. Are you out of your mind? I allowed a dry, angry laugh. Do you have too much free time? Who are you trying to scare with this stunt? I was trying to scare you. Her voice suddenly pitched higher, piercing the quiet night. I just wanted to see your reaction. And what did you do? Caleb, you texted me congrats. One word. She was getting worked up, taking a step toward me until her puffer jacket was almost pressed against my chest. Let me tell you something, Caleb. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of you calling me your bro all the time. I'm sick of you pushing me away, and I'm so entirely sick of that condescending attitude of yours, telling me you'll take one for the team when I'm 30. Her voice started shaking, and the tears she'd been holding back finally broke, huge drops spilling down her cheeks. Who asked you to be my backup plan? Do you think nobody wants me? I stood there like a stone pillar. The wind whipped past us, catching the glint of her tears under the streetlight. The anger that had been burning inside me was instantly extinguished by her crying, leaving behind nothing but a damp, heavy confusion and a sharp, stinging ache. Riley, my throat felt tight. Don't speak. She raised her hand and wiped her face roughly, her knuckles turning red. Caleb, I'm putting it all on the table tonight. I like you. I like you in the let's date, get married, and have kids kind of way. I've liked you for years. She sniffled, trying desperately to steady her voice. You used to always say I treated dating like a joke, that things ended before they even began. Well, yeah, I admit it, I failed on purpose. I just wanted to see if you would feel even a little bit uncomfortable, if you try to stop me. But you never did. Every single time, you'd happily play my wingman, and when it failed, you'd take me out for drinks and comfort me by saying plenty of fish in the sea. She smiled, but it looked worse than her crying. Caleb, you really are my best friend. So good that I want to strangle you right now. I couldn't force a single word out of my mouth. The streetlight cast our shadows long and tangled on the pavement. I'm done playing games now. She looked right at me, her eyes washed clean by the tears, shockingly bright. I'm just going to ask you one question. Caleb, do you have even the slightest bit of feelings for me? Even a tiny amount that goes beyond just being best friends? She held her breath, waiting for my answer. The wind seemed to stop. I didn't answer. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It was like the gears in my brain had rusted shut and refused to turn. Riley liked me? She'd actually liked me for years? It was too much information at once, hitting me so hard I was seeing stars. I opened my mouth, my voice terribly hoarse. Don't cry. I'm not crying. She jutted her chin out stubbornly, even as the tears flowed faster. I fumbled frantically through my pockets, pulling out a crumpled half-pack of tissues, and offered her one. When she didn't take it, I clumsily pressed the tissue to her face. She turned her head to dodge it for a second, but eventually stayed still, letting me wipe her face as ungracefully as someone wiping down a counter. That hurts, she hissed softly. I lightened my touch. My fingertips brushed against her wet cheek, the heat of her skin making me recoil slightly. Riley, I licked my chapped lips. This is really sudden. You have to let me process this. Process what? She grabbed my wrist. Caleb, you've had 20-something years to process. Have you still not figured it out? How is that the same? I tried to pull my hand back, but she held firm. I've always just thought of you as a bro, right? She cut me off. The light in her eyes dimmed, and her grip loosened. Fine. I get it. She took a step backward, putting distance between us. The biting wind instantly rushed into the space. Just pretend I lost my mind tonight. Chalk it up to drunk talk. She lowered her head, pulling her scarf tight around her face again, her voice muffled behind the fabric. I'm going home. She turned and started walking away. I instinctively stepped after her. You're going home this late? I'll call an Uber. She didn't look back. Her voice just drifted over her shoulder. Don't worry, I won't die. And even if something happens to me, it's better than standing here, making things awkward for you. Riley, I shouted her name. She stopped in her tracks, her silhouette looking so fragile under the street lamp. I quickly closed the distance, stepping right in front of her to block her path. Finish what you were saying. I stared her down. What do you mean won't die? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? So what if I am? She looked up at me, her eyes puffy and red, but her gaze was defiant. Caleb, I'm forcing your hand right now. I can't take this anymore. If we keep going like this, I'm going to lose my mind. Either put me out of my misery, or what? Or I disappear completely. I'll move away, change cities, change my number, and make sure you never find me for the rest of my life. She said it calmly. It didn't sound like an empty threat. My heart suddenly plummeted. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. She laughed, fresh tears spilling over. Caleb, don't overestimate yourself. I can survive perfectly fine without you. I knew she was telling the truth. When this girl got stubborn, a team of wild horses couldn't drag her back. The wind cut colder. I looked at her lips, turning pale blue from the freeze, and her slightly trembling shoulders, and whatever rational thought I had left completely shattered. Let's go upstairs first. I grabbed her arm. It's too cold out here. We'll talk inside. I'm not going. She struggled. I said everything I needed to say. What's left to talk about? Come upstairs with me. I deepened my voice, practically half dragging, half carrying her into the lobby. She fought me for a few seconds, failed to break free, and finally gave up, letting me pull her along. In the elevator, neither of us said a word. We just stared at the floor numbers ticking up. She stood in the far corner, keeping as much distance from me as possible, her head bowed, lost in thought. The moment we walked through my front door, the warmth of the apartment washed over us. She shrugged off her puffer jacket, revealing just a thin sweater underneath that made her look even smaller. I poured a mug of hot water and shoved it into her hands. Hold this. Warm your hands up. She didn't say anything, just cupped the mug, taking tiny sips. The steam rose, blurring her features. I sat on the sofa opposite her and ran my hands over my face. Riley, I started. Everything you just said down there. I heard you. She peeked at me over the rim of the mug. But I need time to digest it. I laid out honestly. You just dropped a nuclear bomb on me. You can't expect me to instantly build a fallout shelter on the spot. She pressed her lips together. Besides, I continued, you said you've liked me for years. So why? Why didn't you just tell me? Why did you have to play all these mind games? She lowered the mug, her fingernail picking at the ceramic. I was scared, she said softly. Caleb, I know you too well. You look like the kind of guy who gets along with everyone, but deep down, you draw hard lines. Friends are friends. Romantic partners are romantic partners. The boundaries are crystal clear. If I had confessed right away, you would have run for the hills, and we probably wouldn't even be friends anymore. She let out a bitter laugh. But it turns out you're bulletproof. I really have to hand it to you. I stayed quiet. She wasn't wrong. I genuinely had never looked at her that way before. Riley was as natural a part of my life as breathing. She was a piece of my existence, but which exact piece I had never stopped to analyze. Just a best friend? It felt deeper than that. But girlfriend? We didn't seem to be at that level either. So how come you finally had the guts to say it today? I asked, because I'm exhausted. Caleb. She looked at me, her eyes heavy with fatigue. I'm tired of pretending to just be your buddy, and I'm tired of testing the waters. I don't want to play guessing games anymore. I want an answer. If it's a yes, great. If it's a no. She paused. If it's a no, I walk away. Better to rip the Band-Aid off now. The room fell, completely silent, the only sound being the faint hum of the apartment's heating unit. I looked at her, really looked at her, closer than I ever had in the 20-something years I'd known her. And that's when it hit me. The way she looked at me, it had never been the way a bro looks at a friend. I had just been completely blind. Riley, I started slowly. If we got together, and then we broke up, what happens then? She blinked, caught off guard. You're already thinking that far ahead? I have to. I said seriously. We know each other too well. We're so intertwined that if we broke up, we might not even be able to salvage a friendship. Could you handle the fallout of that? She bit her lower lip, holding back an immediate answer. Riley sat there, clutching her mug, staying quiet for a long time. The steam from the water had practically vanished. I waited, my heart beating a little faster than usual. Caleb, she finally spoke, her voice remarkably steady. Do you think I'm just acting on impulse? Do you think this is just me being possessive, deciding to force the issue without giving a damn about the consequences? I didn't deny it. She smiled a self-deprecating smile. Fair enough. Given my track record, I probably do look like that kind of person. She set the mug down, sat up straight, and met my gaze. But let me tell you something. I've thought about it. I've thought about it a million times. I've thought about it until I couldn't sleep, until my head pounded, until I wanted to scoop my own brain out and scrub it clean. I thought about what would happen if we got together and had a massive fight. Would you give me the cold shoulder? I'd probably cry, storm out, slam the door, and then realize I had nowhere else to go. I'd have to do the walk of shame right back here and sit on your welcome mat, waiting for you to open the door. I thought about what a breakup would look like. We'd probably cut each other off completely. Our mutual friends would be forced to pick sides. Group hangouts would never be the same. Coming back to our hometown for the holidays would turn into a stealth mission, terrified of bumping into each other on the street. I've thought about so much, and the more I thought, the more terrified I got. Her eyes welled up again, but this time no tears fell. But even though I'm terrified, I still had to say it. Because compared to all those imaginary disasters, I'm way more scared of. I'm way more scared of the day I have to watch you hold someone else's hand, watch you marry someone else, watch you become a dad with someone else. While I have to stand on the sidelines, playing the role of the best bro, forcing a smile, and saying congratulations. Her voice hitched. That would literally kill me. My chest felt suffocatingly tight. So, she took a deep breath. Caleb, what's your answer? You don't have to worry about the fallout. You don't have to think about the future. Just tell me, right here, right now. Do you feel even the slightest flutter for me? Her gaze was scorching, like a wildfire sweeping through dry brush. I couldn't look away. My mind was a chaotic mess, fragments of our history flashing by. When we were kids, her trailing behind me yelling, "Wait up, Caleb!" In middle school, when some guys picked on her and I rolled up my sleeves and fought them. In college, when we lived in different states, and she'd take a 3-hour train ride every month just to get lunch with me. After we started working, how every time she hit a roadblock, she'd crash on my couch, cry until her nose was completely stuffed up. And that last time, when she was drunk, biting my ear and whispering, "Caleb, why don't you just marry me?" I thought she was talking crazy. Turns out, she was telling the absolute truth. "Riley," I heard my own voice sounding a bit hollow. "I might." Actually, she blinked, not quite following. "I never once thought you liked me." I explained. "It's not that I didn't think it was possible. I just literally never viewed us through that lens. To me, you were a permanent fixture in my life. Like family. I was so used to having you around that. I forgot you were a girl who could actually have romantic feelings for someone." I paused, trying to gather my words. "You just asked me if I felt a flutter." I looked up, meeting her eyes. I don't know if flutter is the right word, but I know that when I saw that photo on your Instagram, it made me sick to my stomach. When I saw you crying out there, I panicked. When you said you were going to move away, my immediate instinct was, hell no. For a guy looking at his best friend, don't you think those reactions are a little extreme? Riley's eyes began to light up, piece by piece, like stars breaking through the clouds. "So," her voice trembled. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying," I cut in, taking a deep breath, "we can give this a shot." She held her breath, but I held up a finger. "I have 3 ground rules." "Tell me." She instantly sat up stick straight, staring at me, unblinking. "Rule 1, I said sternly. "No more mind games. No fake AI boyfriends. No dating random guys just to make me jealous. That's basically playing with my head, and if you pull a stunt like that again, we're done on the spot. If we have a problem, we communicate directly. No beating around the bush. Deal?" She nodded forcefully. "Rule 2, I went on. We need an adjustment period. Shifting from best friends to dating is going to take a minute. Don't expect me to magically transform into Romeo overnight. I'm probably still going to have a smart mouth, and I might piss you off. You're going to need some patience." "Doll, I have so much patience." She raised a hand like she was taking an oath. "Rule 3, I looked her dead in the eye. If we try this and realize it's just not working, or if one of us wants out, we have to be honest. We end things amicably, and we try our best. Not to let it turn toxic." That last part was hard to say. The excitement faded slightly from Riley's face. She pressed her lips together and gave a solemn nod. "I promise." "So," I scratched the back of my neck, suddenly feeling intensely awkward. "Where does that leave us right now? What exactly are we?" She tilted her head, thinking for a second, then stood up and walked over to me. She looked down at me from where she stood. "What do you think, boyfriend?" "Boyfriend?" Riley was standing right in front of me, eyes sparkling, the corners of her mouth turned up, unable to hide her smug little triumph. "Right." I managed, my voice dry. "Right." She arched an eyebrow. "That's your reaction? Caleb, are you broken? What reaction do you want?" I leaned back into the sofa, tried to regain my usual composure. "You want me to set off fireworks? Pop champagne? Or should I go sprint a few laps outside and scream to the neighborhood that I'm off the market?" "That won't be necessary." She leaned down, bringing her face so close I could feel her breath on my skin. "Just call me babe." "Me?" "Come on, say it," she urged, mischief dancing in her eyes. I choked on the word for a solid 10 seconds before forcing it through my teeth. "Babe." It was quieter than a mosquito. "Didn't catch that." She cupped her ear. "All right, that's enough out of you, Riley." I snapped, feeling the heat rising to my cheeks. She burst out laughing, stood up straight, and walked over to sit on the other end of the couch. She hugged a throw pillow to her chest, rested her chin on it, and tilted her head to look at me. "Caleb," she suddenly called my name, her tone softening. "I'm not dreaming, am I? Why don't you pinch yourself and find out?" I grumbled. She actually reached over and pinched her own arm hard. "Ow." She winced, rubbing her arm. "Okay, definitely not dreaming." Seeing her act like such a goof, I couldn't help it. I laughed too, and as I laughed, a surreal feeling washed over me. So this is it. We're together? Me and Riley? My oldest best friend is now my girlfriend. The more I thought about it, the weirder it felt. So, I cleared my throat. "Are you hungry?" The subject change was incredibly clunky, but Riley played along, patting her stomach. "Starving. I was so nervous tonight, I barely ate a thing." "Wait here." I pushed myself off the couch and headed for the kitchen. "I'll make you a bowl of ramen. I want 2 fried eggs with it." She yelled at my back. Yeah, I know." The kitchen light flicked on, and I opened the fridge to scavenge for ingredients. Eggs, dried noodles, a handful of spinach. My hands moved on autopilot, but my brain was still a chaotic mess. Boiling water, cracking eggs, dropping the noodles in. Steam plumed upwards, fogging up the glass window. How exactly were Riley and I supposed to act around each other now? Were we still going to playfully shove each other and sling an arm over each other's shoulders? That felt wrong. But acting overly polite and formal? That was even more absurd. Right in the middle of my overthinking, I felt a sudden squeeze around my waist. Riley had walked up behind me and wrapped her arms around my torso, pressing her face into my back. I froze. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice tight. "Just hugging my boyfriend." "Is that a crime?" she mumbled, tightening her grip. "I'm scared you're going to back out." I paused and set down the chopsticks I was using to stir the pot. "I'm not backing out," I said, lifting a hand to cover hers where they were locked around my waist. "It's just, I'm a little out of practice with this stuff. Give me a break. You'll get used to it." She nuzzled her face against my spine. "Caleb, I'm going to be so good to you." I let out a soft laugh. "Isn't that my line? Doesn't matter who says it." She let go and stepped up beside me, leaning against the counter to watch me. "Anyway, you're my guy now. I'm going to spoil you, love you, protect you, and make sure nobody messes with you." She sounded completely serious, like she was reciting vows. I looked at her bright, sincere eyes, and something deep inside my chest completely melted. "The noodles are getting mushy." I turned my head away, stirring the pot vigorously to hide my face. "Oh." She stood obediently to the side, but her eyes stayed glued to me. Once the ramen was done, I divided it into 2 bowls. She cradled her bowl and slurped the noodles down happily, a thin layer of sweat breaking out on her forehead. "So good." She flashed me a thumbs up. "Chef Caleb's cooking never misses." Stop sucking up. I focused on my own bowl, though I couldn't stop the corners of my mouth from lifting. After we ate, she volunteered to do the dishes. I leaned against the kitchen doorframe, watching her. The water was running, and she was humming slightly off-key, practically bouncing on her heels. Halfway through the dishes, Riley's phone started ringing on the counter. She dried her hands, glanced at the screen, and frowned. "Who is it?" I asked. "My mom." She sighed and answered. "Hey, Mom. Yeah, I'm at Caleb's. I ate. Wait right now." She glanced at me, covered the mouthpiece, and whispered, "My mom wants me to come home right now. She says it's an emergency." I nodded. "I'll go with you." "No need," she said. "I'll just call an Uber. You have work tomorrow. It's late." "It's not safe." I wasn't taking no for an answer, already walking over to grab my coat. She didn't argue further, just spoke back into the phone. "Okay, Caleb's coming with me. I'll be right there." Hanging up, she looked exasperated. "I don't even know what the big emergency is." She sounded totally frantic. "We'll find out when we get there." I handed her puffer jacket. We went downstairs and hopped into the Uber. She leaned her head on my shoulder the whole ride, staying quiet. When we pulled up to the entrance of her neighborhood, she got out and waved at me through the window. "Head back. Text me when you get home." "Will do." I watched her walk through the gates until her silhouette vanished into the darkness, before telling the driver, "Take me back to where you picked us up." When I got back to my apartment, it felt noticeably empty. The faint scent of her perfume still lingered in the air. I sat on the sofa, staring into space for a minute before pulling out my phone. The group chat had a 99+ notification badge. I tapped in and scrolled up. "Hey, Caleb, bro. What is the deal? Was it you and Riley's post or not?" "Riley just deleted the post." "Something's fishy." "Caleb, say something." The suspense is killing us. I pinched the bridge of my nose and typed. "It's nothing, just a misunderstanding." She was messing around. I hit send. The chat went dead silent for a few seconds, and then absolute chaos erupted. "A misunderstanding? Messing around? You don't just mess around like that. Caleb, you're acting weird. Usually, you'd be cussing us out by now. Spill it. Is something going on with you and Riley?" I couldn't be bothered to reply, so I exited the chat. I opened my messages with Riley and texted her, "I'm home." She replied instantly. "I just got out of the firing line. My mom is making me go on a blind date tomorrow." I stared at the text, my brow furrowing deeply. "A blind date?" "Yeah. My Aunt Susan set it up. He's some Oxford-educated PhD, supposedly a total catch. Mom wanted me to go meet him for lunch tomorrow." That inexplicable, bubbling anger from earlier tonight flared right back up. "Are you going to go?" I typed. The screen showed, "Riley is typing." For a long time before a single message popped up. "What do you think, boyfriend?" I let out a breath of relief, though I still felt a knot of frustration. "Did you tell your mom about us?" "Not yet. I want to wait until things settle down a bit. If I told her right now, she'd probably drive over to your place and interrogate you." "Trust me." I pictured that exact scenario and shuddered. "So what's the plan for tomorrow?" "Just ghost the guy." "No. I'm going," she replied quickly. "I'll go do the polite thing and tell him to his face that I have a boyfriend. That way he won't bother me again." I pressed my lips into a thin line. "I'm coming with you." I said, "I'm coming with you." I repeated. To mark my territory, the typing bubble vanished. A long minute passed before she finally replied. Caleb, are you jealous? No, you're so totally jealous. Think whatever you want. What time tomorrow, and where? She dropped a pin to an upscale French restaurant and gave me a time. Dress nice, she added. You can't let this Oxford PhD outshine you. Got it, I texted back. Go to sleep. You too. Night, boyfriend. Staring at that little tilde, I found myself smiling without realizing it. Night. I put the phone down and walked out onto the balcony. The night was pitch black, the city lights shimmering in the distance. Tomorrow. I was actually looking forward to it. The next day at noon, I arrived at the French restaurant 20 minutes early. It was a pretentious little spot, dimly lit, candles on the tables, the air heavy with the smell of espresso and freshly baked baguettes. I was wearing a button-down Riley had bought me last year, and I'd even spent extra time styling my hair. The host led me to a booth by the window. Riley wasn't there yet. I ordered a glass of water and watched the traffic outside, my fingers drumming a restless rhythm on the tabletop. I was nervous. It felt like I was deploying for a major battle. I heard footsteps and looked up. Riley had arrived. She was wearing a pale blue dress under a beige trench coat, her hair falling softly over her shoulders, her makeup light but flawless. When she saw me, her eyes lit up and she hurried over. Been waiting long? She asked, dropping her voice as she slid into the seat across from me. Just got here. I looked her up and down. You look beautiful. A faint flush crept on her cheeks. Stop. You look handsome. We made eye contact, and both of us tried to suppress a smile, ultimately failing. Listen, when the guy gets here. Riley leaned in, whispering, play it cool. Don't be too aggressive. Aunt Susan set this up, so I have to keep up appearances, at least. I know what I'm doing. I nodded. Just as I said it, a man approached our table. He was wearing a tailored suit, wire-rimmed glasses, and holding a copy of A Brief History of Time. Me. Riley blinked, clearly taken aback, but quickly stood up and flashed a textbook polite smile. You must be Preston? Riley, a pleasure. Preston pushed his glasses up his nose, his gaze immediately landing on me. And this is my boyfriend, Caleb. Riley slipped her arm through mine, beaming with sickening sweetness. Preston's smile froze for a fraction of a second, but he quickly recovered. Oh, I see. Your mother neglected to mention you were seeing someone. We haven't had the chance to tell our families yet. Riley lied smoothly, without skipping a beat. It's quite new. Is that so? Preston gave me a loaded look before pulling out his chair and sitting down. Well then, congratulations. The waiter came over. Preston rattled off a string of menu items in heavily accented French, pausing to ask Riley, do you enjoy foie gras, Riley? Theirs is incredibly authentic. Riley smiled politely. I don't eat liver. Caleb knows that. I nodded, playing along. Yeah, she has a sensitive stomach. She can't handle rich stuff like that. Preston's face stiffened again. Once the food arrived, Preston launched into an endless monologue about his time abroad, name-dropping Oxford libraries and Wall Street coffee shops, oozing superiority with every word. Riley maintained her polite smile, offering a non-committal nod here and there. I focused entirely on cutting my steak, try to fly under the radar, but Preston clearly wasn't going to let me off the hook. And where are you employed, Caleb? He asked suddenly, turning to me. I'm a narrative designer at a video game studio. I answered truthfully. The gaming industry. He dragged the words out. I hear that's a grueling field. Endless crunch time, 80-hour weeks, and the pay can be quite unstable. Nothing like the finance sector, of course. We have high pressure, but the dividends are substantial. It's fine. I love what I do. I kept it short. Passion is for the young. When you reach my age, you realize practicalities matter more. Preston offered a patronizing smile, turning back to Riley. A woman with your credentials, Riley, deserves a partner who can provide stability and a certain standard of living. It guarantees a secure future. He was crossing a line. Riley set down her knife and fork, gently wiping the corner of her mouth with her napkin. Preston, I appreciate your concern. However, she reached across the table and laced her fingers through mine. When I choose a partner, I don't look at his job title, and I don't look at his bank account. I look at the man. Caleb is wonderful, and I'm more than happy. She didn't raise her voice, but every word cut like glass. Preston's fake smile completely collapsed. Well, I suppose you're a romantic then, he said stiffly. But marriage isn't a fairy tale. Marrying within your socioeconomic bracket has its merits. I'd suggest you reconsider, especially since your family doesn't seem to approve. My brow furrowed. Riley just laughed. Preston, that is my personal business. Don't trouble yourself over it. The atmosphere at the table plummeted to absolute zero. The rest of the meal tasted like cardboard. Finally, Preston manufactured an excuse, hastily paid his half of the bill, and left. Watching him disappear through the front door, Riley let out a massive sigh of relief. He's finally gone. I was suffocating. That guy was like a brain-dead villain out of a trashy soap opera. I watched her slump back into the booth, visibly relaxed, and I couldn't help it but laugh. Great performance, Ms. Sullivan. Naturally, she tipped her chin up proudly, but then her face fell. Though, he's definitely going to complain to Aunt Susan, and Aunt Susan is going to complain to my mom. Oh God, my mom's going to blow up my phone tonight. Scared? I asked. A little. She nodded honestly, squeezing my hand tight. Caleb, you have to suffer through the yelling with me. Deal. I squeezed back. We're in this together. Stepping out of the restaurant, the afternoon sun was brilliant. Riley stretched her arms above her head, the sleeves of her trench coat slipping down her wrists. What now? She asked. Heading back to work. I checked my watch. It was 2:00 p.m. I had already taken a whole day off. Going in now was pointless. Don't feel like it, I said. Let's play hooky. Her eyes lit up. Really? Where are we going? I thought about it. A movie? The mall? Or, let's go back to your place and play video games, she suggested, practically vibrating with excitement. We haven't played co-op in forever. Sounds like a plan. We grabbed an Uber back to my apartment. She rested her head on my shoulder for the entire ride, humming a quiet tune, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing circles on my palm. It tickled. I held her hand firmer. Once we got to my place, she kicked off her boots with practiced ease and pulled her slippers out of the shoe rack, the fluffy pink one she'd bought last winter and forcibly claimed as her exclusive guest slippers. Grab the sodas and chips, she ordered as she fired up the TV. Get them yourself. I collapsed onto the couch, refusing to move. Excuse me. I am your guest, she stated indignantly. Since when are you a guest? I shot her a look. Does a girlfriend not count as a guest? She countered, hands on her hips. Me? Fine. Resigned, I dragged myself to the kitchen to fetch the Coke and the Doritos. When I returned to the living room, she already had the PlayStation booted up and 2 controllers sitting on the coffee table. What are we playing? She asked. Your call. Let's do It Takes Two. We never actually finished it last time. We sat cross-legged on the rug, leaning our backs against the couch, and started playing. Her gaming skills were as atrocious as ever. She kept falling off platforms or getting stuck on the easiest puzzles. Ugh, I died again, she groaned, slapping the controller against her leg. You're terrible at this. I mocked her. Watch and learn. Yeah, mister. Pro gamer. She leaned over to watch my screen, her breath tickling my ear. Halfway through a boss fight, her phone rang. It was her mom. Riley's face dropped instantly. She pressed a finger to her lips, signaling me to be quiet, and answered the call. Hey, Mom. Yeah, I met him. It's not a match. Why? Because there was no spark. Mom, you can't force these things. Her mom's voice was so loud I could hear her yelling from where I sat. Riley held the phone away from her ear, giving me a pained look. I mouthed silently. Put it on speaker. She hesitated for a second, then tapped the speaker button. Don't give me that nonsense. Preston is a total catch. Oxford PhD, makes 6 figures, and he's handsome. What more do you want? Mom, just because he looks good on paper doesn't mean we're right for each other. Oh, then tell me, who is right for you? Someone like Caleb? Her mother's tone turned razor sharp. Riley glanced at me, bit her lip, and lowered her voice. What if it is? Dead silence on the other end of the line. And then, an even louder explosion. Riley Sullivan, are you trying to give me a heart attack? You and Caleb are practically brothers. You grew up in the same sandbox. How can you date him? Huh? Aren't you embarrassed about what people will say? You two know everything about each other. You're as familiar as a left hand shaking a right hand. Where's the romance in that? Someone like Preston, that is a real relationship. That is a husband. My expression darkened. Riley was getting frantic. Mom, how can you say that? What's wrong with Caleb? How is he not good enough? I never said he wasn't good enough. I'm saying you two don't make sense. You're too comfortable. There's no spark. Marriage is about the long haul, dealing with bills and chores. You can't survive on comfort. You need someone who balances you out, someone new. Caleb and I balance each other out perfectly. Balance my foot. You're both stubborn as mules. Mom, right before the argument could escalate to screaming, I reached over and took the phone out of Riley's hand. Mrs. Sullivan, it's Caleb. I spoke, keeping my voice as calm and steady as possible. The phone line instantly went dead silent. Caleb, Riley's mom finally spoke, her tone dialing back a notch but still heavy with disapproval. You're right there. Well, I suppose you heard everything. I'm not attacking you, dear. It's just, I truly don't think you two are a good match. Think about it objectively. Am I wrong? Mrs. Sullivan, I said slowly. Whether we're a good match or not is something only Riley and I can know. Everything you're worried about, We've already discussed it. But when it comes to love, you don't know the temperature of the water until you step in. I paused and reached out to hold Riley's hand. My feelings for Riley aren't a passing phase. I'm going to take care of her, and I'm going to do everything in my power to give her a good life. I'm asking you to give us a chance and to trust our judgment. Riley squeezed my hand tight, her eyes glistening. Her mother stayed quiet for a long, long time. You kids, she finally let out a heavy sigh. Fina, I can't control you. You made your bed, you lie in it. Just don't come crying to me if you regret it. Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. I exhaled, tension leaving my shoulders. Don't thank me yet, she warned, her tone still stern but lacking its previous venom. Caleb Hayes, I'm making this crystal clear. If you ever break my daughter's heart, I will end you. You don't have to worry about that. After exchanging a few more brief pleasantries, the call ended. Riley threw herself at me, burying her face into my shoulder. Caleb, that was incredibly hot, she mumbled in my shirt. I try. I patted her back. So my mom, I guess that means we passed level 1. She looked up, her eyes shining with excitement. Next up, your parents. Me. I almost forgot about that part. Dealing with my parents turned out to be far easier than I anticipated. That weekend, I brought Riley over to my parents' house for dinner. Do you think I'll be weirded out? She whispered nervously as we stood on the porch. No, I reassured her. They've been waiting for you to officially join the family for years. Are you serious? Dead serious. My mom practically treats you like a daughter already. Despite my confident words, I was actually a little anxious. It was a massive shift in dynamics, and I wasn't entirely sure how they'd react to the news. My mom opened the door. She was wearing her floral apron, a spatula still in her hand. Hi, Mrs. Hayes. Riley instantly plastered on her brightest, sweetest smile. Riley, honey. Cool mean. My mom practically beamed, her eyes darting between the two of us before landing squarely on our intertwined hands. Her eyes crinkled knowingly, though she didn't say anything right away. My dad was sitting in the living room recliner, reading the Sunday paper. When he saw us walk in, he lowered his reading glasses. Hi, Mr. Hayes. Riley gave a polite little bow. Hey, kids. My dad nodded. His gaze also dropped to our hands for a split second. Have a seat. The atmosphere felt a tiny bit thick. Riley sat down stiffly next to me on the sofa, her back ramrod straight, her hands folded politely in her lap like a kid in the principal's office. My mom brought over a tray of iced tea, smiling warmly. How's work been lately, Riley? Keeping you busy? It's been okay. Not too bad. Riley quickly accepted a glass. And how's Caleb treating you? He hasn't been giving you a hard time, has he? No, he's been great. Riley shot me a quick sideways glance. Glad to hear it. My mom sat down next to me, taking my free hand and patting it affectionately. You two finally figured it out. Riley and I both froze. Mom, I started cautiously. You already knew? I'm not blind, Caleb. My mom rolled her eyes at me. You think you two were subtle? Riley's been following you around since you were in diapers. And she looks at you like you hung the moon. And you? You always called her your bro, but you guarded her like she was made of glass. Your father and I saw this coming from a mile away. We were just waiting for you two to stop being idiots and admit it. My dad folded his newspaper and set it on the coffee table, speaking in his slow, measured voice. Your mother's right. We've always looked at Riley as one of our own. Making it official? We couldn't be happier. Riley's eyes immediately watered. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Still calling us Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, my mom teased gently. It's about time you switched to mom and dad. Riley turned beet red, her voice dropping to a whisper. Mom, Dad, there we go. My mom beamed. She reached into her apron pocket, pulled out a small, flat jewelry box, and pressed it into Riley's hands. A welcome to the family gift. Riley tried to hand it back. Oh no, I couldn't. Take it, my mom insisted, pushing her hands back. It's a family piece. It was going to be yours eventually anyway. My dad nodded in agreement. Go on, kiddo. Take it. Riley looked at me helplessly. I gave her an encouraging nod. Blushing furiously, she clutched the box to her chest and whispered, Thank you. Mom, that's my girl. My mom looked absolutely thrilled, standing up and heading back to the kitchen. You two relax. I'm making 2 extra sides tonight. We're celebrating. At dinner, the tension completely evaporated. My mom relentlessly piled food onto Riley's plate, nagging her about needing to eat more because she looked too skinny. My dad chatted with me about work, casually steering the conversation toward our future plans. So what's the game plan? I glanced at Riley. We're just dating right now. We're not rushing down the aisle just yet. No rush, my mom chimed in. You guys are young. Enjoy dating. But it wouldn't hurt to start looking at real estate. If you see a house you like, might as well lock it down. You'll need one eventually anyway. Under the table, Riley lightly kicked my shin, her face burning an even deeper shade of red. After dinner, Riley practically sprinted to the kitchen, insisting on doing the dishes. My mom pulled me out onto the back deck. "Caleb." She looked at me, her expression turning dead serious. "Riley is an incredible girl. Do not mess this up." "I know, Mom. You two grew up together. You know every little thing about each other. That's a beautiful foundation, but it's also a trap," my mom explained. "When you're that comfortable, it's easy to take the other person for granted. It's easy to stop trying. Love takes maintenance, Caleb. No matter how long you've known her, you have to actively choose her every single day. Do you understand me?" "I understand." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "Good." My mom smiled, patting my shoulder. "Go back inside and keep your girl company." When I walked back in the living room, Riley was just drying her hands with a towel. Seeing me, she trotted over. "What did your mom say?" she whispered. "She told me to make sure I treat you right." I answered honestly. She bit her lip to hide a smile, her eyes curving into little crescents. On the drive back to her apartment, she reached across the center console and held my hand, swinging our arms slightly. "Caleb," she said softly, "I think I'm the luckiest person in the world. Yeah, the very first guy I fell for, I gotta love him all these years. And in the end, we actually got together." She leaned her head back against the seat, looking over at me. "It's like winning the lottery. You're a goofball." I reached over and ruffled her hair. "Yeah, well, I'm your goofball," she practically purred. "Fools get lucky." The night was soft, the streetlights casting long, warm shadows over the dashboard as we drove, our hands tightly laced together. A few weeks later, we both managed to get some time off work, so we decided to take a weekend trip. On the morning of our departure, Riley was buzzing with the manic energy of a kid going to Disney World. She pounded on my door at the crack of dawn, wearing a massive hiking backpack that looked big enough to smuggle a small child. "Are you moving out?" I asked, staring at the monstrous bag as she shoved past me into the apartment. "Better safe than sorry." She dropped the bag onto the floor, panting. I packed outfits, 3 pairs of shoes, makeup, sunscreen, umbrellas, a first aid kit, snacks. I brought everything. I sighed. "We're going to Mystic, Connecticut for 2 nights. Why did you pack a survival bunker?" "You don't get it," she said with absolute authority. "A good vacation requires flawless preparation." "Whatever." I grabbed the straps of her bag and hoisted it up. It weighed a ton. "Did you pack bricks?" "Hey, it's not that heavy. I can carry it myself." She reached for it. I easily kept it out of her reach and swung it over my own shoulder. On the Amtrak ride up the coast, she fell asleep leaning against my shoulder. Her breathing was slow and even, her eyelashes fluttering slightly every time the train bumped over the tracks. I turned my head and watched her peaceful sleeping face, my chest swelling with a quiet, overwhelming warmth. We arrived in Mystic by early afternoon. It was a charming, historic seaport town. Brick sidewalks, old colonial houses, and the smell of salt water in the air. Since it was the off-season, the tourist crowds were thin, giving the town a sleepy, romantic vibe. We'd booked a room at a quaint bed and breakfast right near the water. The room was small but cozy, and if you opened the window, you could see the boats bobbing in the harbor. "Wow, it's so pretty." Riley leaned out the window, pointing excitedly at an old wooden schooner docked at the pier. "Want to unpack and go explore?" I asked. "Yes." The downtown area wasn't huge, so we walked the main drag pretty quickly. But the side streets were a maze of interesting little boutiques and old taverns. We wandered aimlessly, popping into odd antique shops and buying treats whenever we smelled something good. Riley was like a curious toddler, wanting to touch and try everything. Saltwater taffy, homemade fudge, a local glass-blowing shop. Within an hour, her hands were full of shopping bags. "Caleb, look at this." She held up a small, hand-painted glass ornament of a seagull, dangling it right in front of my face. "Childish," I critiqued. "Humph. You just have zero taste." She rolled her eyes, but carefully wrapped the glass bird back up. By the time we reached the historic drawbridge spanning the river, the sun was just starting to set, bathing the entire town in a spectacular golden-red glow. The water sparkled like shattered glass, and seagulls circled lazily overhead. "It's so beautiful." Riley rested her forearms on the bridge railing, staring out at the horizon. I stood right beside her, watching the sunset catch the highlights in her hair and paint her profile in warm amber light. "Caleb." She suddenly turned to me, her eyes sparkling. "Let's take a picture." "Sure." She pulled out her phone, flipped to the front camera, and shuffled closer to me. I slung an arm around her shoulder. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. The shutter clicked. In the photo, her smile was radiant, and I had a genuine, relaxed grin on my face. Behind us, the historic harbor glowed under the sunset. It was a perfect moment captured in time. She stared down at the photo for a long minute. "I'm making this my lock screen," she declared. Go for it. And I'm posting it to Instagram. Go for it. She actually did. The caption was simple. With him. Right here. Within seconds, the likes and comments started flooding in. The Warzone Squad group chat practically had a meltdown. Bro, you're going Instagram official. Let's go, Caleb. Making massive plays in silence. You're paying for drinks next time. Unbelievable. I chuckled and slipped my phone back into my pocket. As night fell, the gas lamps along the streets flickered on. We found a lively seafood tavern near the water and ordered huge plates of fried clams, lobster rolls, and local craft hard cider. The cider was sweet, but it definitely had a kick. After 2 glasses, Riley's cheeks were flushed pink, and she was talking a mile a minute. Caleb. She rested her chin on her hand, looking at me with glossy, liquid eyes. I'm so happy right now. Not just normal happy. She shook her head slightly. Like out of my mind, crazy happy. It feels like a dream. I reached across the table and put some more fries on her plate. Then just pretend it's a dream. Eat your food. Stop drinking. No. She reached out and grabbed my wrist. If this is a dream, I never want to wake up. I turned my hand over and intertwined my fingers with hers. It's not a dream. She smiled, leaning her cheek against the back of my hand like a contented cat. After dinner, we walked off the food by strolling along the river walk. The night breeze was brisk, carrying the chill of the ocean and the scent of pine. Her hand was incredibly warm, gripping mine tightly. We passed a quirky little local shop that had a massive wooden board out front covered in hundreds of lock padlocks and little wooden tags. Riley dragged me inside. Let's write one. Write what? I wish. She bought a wooden tag from the cashier and handed me a Sharpie. You write it down and hang it up outside. The lady says it's good luck. I took the marker, thought for a second, and wrote, Peace and joy, year after year. Simple, but it was exactly what I wanted. Riley leaned over my arm to inspect it and wrinkled her nose. That's so boring and mature. What are you going to write then? I challenged. She grabbed another tag, turned her back to me, and scribbled furiously. As soon as she finished, she practically sprinted outside, jumped up, and looped it onto the highest hook she could reach, refusing to let me see it. What did you write? I pressed. I'm not telling you. Secret. She grinned mischievously. If you say it out loud, it won't come true. Childish. I like being childish. We laughed and bickered the whole way back to the B&B. The moonlight washed over the cobblestone streets, stretching our overlapping shadows long behind us. Back in the room, after we'd showered and brushed our teeth, we crawled into bed. The room only had 2 twin beds, pushed fairly close together. Riley lay on her side, facing me in the dark. Caleb, are you asleep? She whispered. Not yet. I can't sleep either. She paused. Let's talk. About what? About the future. Her voice was soft and airy in the quiet room. When we buy a house, it has to have a big porch so I can put lots of plants on it. And we need to adopt a cat. A really fat, lazy one. Okay, on the weekends, we'll just stay in. You can play your games, and I'll binge my shows. Or we can cook together. I'll prep the veggies, and you do the cooking. Deal. And we have to take one trip somewhere new every single year. All right, and when we get old, we'll move somewhere really quiet out in the country, get a little house with a yard, grow some vegetables, maybe get some chickens, and just sit on the porch in the sun. She rambled on, listing off a whole life, her voice slowly getting quieter and heavier. I lay there listening to her, an overwhelming sense of peace settling into my bones. Caleb, she mumbled, right on the edge of sleep. We're going to be together forever, right? Yeah, I answered softly into the dark. We are. She let out a long, satisfied sigh and didn't say anything else. Soon, the slow, rhythmic sound of her breathing filled the room. I laid there watching her hazy silhouette in the dark for a long, long time. The next day, we took a drive just outside of town. By pure chance, we stumbled across a sprawling peach orchard. The trees were in full bloom, a sea of pink and white petals stretching as far as the eye could see. Whenever the wind blew, the petals drifted down like a warm snowstorm. Riley, wearing a soft pink sweater, immediately ran right into the middle of the trees, spinning around and laughing like a little kid. Caleb, take a picture of me. She shoved her phone into my hands. I held up the phone, found the right angle, and tapped the shutter. In the photo, she was standing amidst a flurry of falling petals, smiling brilliantly, her eyes curved into happy little half moons. Do I look good? She jogged over to check the screen. You look beautiful. I told her honestly. She looked entirely too pleased with herself as she took her phone back and immediately set it as her new lock screen. This one's even better than the bridge picture, she concluded. We found a wooden bench at the edge of the orchard and sat down. We watched the families walking by, kids flying kites in the distance, older couples enjoying the afternoon sun. Caleb, she said, leaning her head against my shoulder. Time really flies, doesn't it? Yeah. How long have we known each other? Has it been 25 years? Just about. That's half a lifetime. She sighed happily. And we still have so many years left to go. I reached down and laced my fingers through hers. The sunlight filtered through the blooming peach branches, leaving dappled, golden spots on the grass around us. If this was what the rest of my life looked like, I couldn't ask for anything more. Story complete.